Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Ranyah Salous with Guidehouse. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Neeraj Koul, CDO at Federal Railroad Administration. Quick background about myself. I have supported a number of engagements across various technology projects over the last 12 years. 6 of those years I have been at Guidehouse, focusing on supporting the Department of Transportation and Federal Aviation Administration in using technology and innovation to support their missions. Regardless of the capability, whether it's data analytics, AI/ML, automation, cloud, system modernization, you name it, data has been at the center of every initiative that I have led, with the CDO playing an integral role in the success of these projects. So as you can imagine, the discussion today is very near and dear to me. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Koul, to introduce yourself.
My name is Neeraj Koul. I'm a senior technical advisor here within the Federal Railroad Administration, and I also serve as FRA Chief Data Officer. I'm a formally trained computer scientist with a PhD in computer science. I have close to 2 decades of experience of figuring out how do we leverage data to meet mission objectives. My career has taken me across academia, private sector, not-for-profit, and the federal government.
Based on your experience, what best practices or lessons learned would you recommend to other federal CDOs looking to enhance their data capabilities?
That's a great question. I think as a CDO, I think one of the key things you need to make sure within the organization is to get support around that data is a discipline by itself. It isn't IT, it isn't mission, it's a discipline by itself that is key. As a CDO, you have to be an evangelist and make a case for data as a separate discipline within the organization. So within FRA, we reorganize where we essentially have an office called the Office of Research, Data and Innovation. That now serves as a fulcrum for data practitioners that essentially our mission, whether it's Office of Safety or Office of Railroad Development, can reach out as a subject matter expert to help them solve their mission needs. I see them as our customers whose problems we can solve. So that's very critical. So as soon as you are able to show them value, build efficiencies into their system, and enable them to do their jobs in a better and efficient way, they will come on board. So I think that's a critical thing that I wanted for CDOs. Being innovative, showing value while setting up the larger strategy for the data. Identify pain points for your customers, for what I call the CDO customers. Again, what's within your organization. And again, it could be outside also, as we said, FRA makes a lot of its data public. Understand their problems, be embedded in them, and then use data to solve that thing. I think that has been very critical. Understand their pain points in the sense, one of the things at FRA we realized was that as people, particularly if you have these more advanced data folks, they have to go through a lot of hoops to get access to the data in an agile manner. So put together processes in place like the Dapper to make sure that happens in an agile manner. Once we have understood the problems of your customers, put tools in place that help them. Within FRA, we have a very strong GIS program, and we have FRA folks who are very, very proficient with developing tools and around those things. And we have essentially taken some of our GIS tools, what we call is the data management tools, the Power BIs, the Tableaus, and make sure that they are available to our end users across all the mission objectives. We make sure data that they have is presented to them in a manner that's very useful to them. We have a dashboard that's essentially for our CFO, who has had access to that data in the past, but now we are making it accessible to him in a way that essentially makes him to make some decision. One of the best practices, be an evangelist, solve real problems for our customers, show value while building a broader strategy for the entire organization. I also think one of the key things for the CDO is to build a data-ready workforce. I don't think we are at a stage where data is just going to be used by data professionals. Our end users, our decision makers, inspectors, they are going to be using data for their day-to-day activities. Make sure you have a data-ready workforce, which is essentially giving them trainings around the limitations of this data, making sure they understand to look at data when it's normalized rather than as the raw count, so that they're not drawing incorrect insights from the data. So I think having trainings for entire workforce are very critical. We within FRA have essentially done some very basic training for our tools. I, within my kind of under my purview, have talked about artificial intelligence. What is the promise? What are the challenges, and how we can be used? So again, be an evangelist. The most important part is be at the table when systems are being developed. Business users, and if you have contracts for building solutions, they often look at data from their lens and which they should look at it. They don't look at data from an enterprise level. So make sure that you are available there so that you are able to put in those, what I call as links that allow you to integrate the data, that allow you to make sure that the quality of the data is good from the beginning. What we are looking towards is building something that we call in common data architecture. We also look at data from an enterprise level, from a common data architecture, build best practices around this so that as you are building these systems, those best practices are make sure we are doing our job in a manner that's consistent with the rules, regulations, and procedure. In summary, solve problems, get them on board, have a seat at the table, and build data things in the beginning rather than at the end.
Yeah, everything you said, I think, is incredibly valuable and should be considered. Even thinking through the common data architecture and looking at the perspective from an enterprise-wide level. I think so many times within an organization, you have different offices or lines of business, and they want to own their data. They want to own the way they use their data in their systems and applications. But it makes it increasingly difficult to integrate then at that point, right? And when you do things like cloud migrations and things at an enterprise level to try to promote a technology-first environment, it becomes increasingly different when you have these organizations working in silos. So I love the idea of really, doubling down on, let's look at this from an enterprise level. Let's create a common data architecture. Let's work with these different solution groups to figure out how they're using their data, because there's probably a lot of insights you have into the bigger vision for the organization that they might not be considering, right? So I think that is a huge consideration for many different organizations to think through. So that's great. Thank you, Neeraj, for joining me today. It has been a pleasure discussing the transformative power of data and technology in the transportation industry.
Thank you, Ranyah. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about some of the data-related activities within FRA, and really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks a lot.